where we're joined now by the Conservative MP Nadhim Zahawi and also by three young non-Conservative voters from different ethnic backgrounds. Iola Redhead, who you saw there in that report, the UKIP activist Sanyajeet Tandey, and the political commentator Mohammed Ansar. Let's just start with you, Sanyajeet, because your parents voted Conservative. You're a fan of Margaret Thatcher, but you've joined UKIP, or you're going to vote for them.
Yeah,
so
quite.
What has Mr. Zahawi got to say to you to get you back?
If the Tory party was to go back to kind of what it traditionally stood for and had policies similar to those of Thatcher, or that kind of promoted like small state and like independence of the individual, and like lower taxes, stuff like that, then perhaps I may possibly consider it. But under the leadership of Cameron currently, not even an option. We're never. Absolutely not.
Let's see what
you listened to David Cameron's speech today.
Yeah, not really impressed. Like he was saying how obviously the deficit needs to be reduced and stuff, but
talked about lowering taxes, which you just said is something that's the right thing to do.
But not to the extent. There were no concrete policies that he put forward in his speech about that.
We will have the lowest corporation tax rate in the G20 under this government. We will help small business because you can employ a person on £22,000 a year or 4 people on minimum wage and pay no employer's national insurance. And so there's some real, concrete. We've taken out, the lowest paid from paying tax altogether. When we came into office, the tax rate was at £6,400.
But this is very intriguing because here's a perfectly straightforward mainstream political discussion between somebody who happens to have an ethnic background and presence and an MP. But what about getting all these people who don't vote from the ethnic community to vote Conservative?
I think the way the Tory party seems to go about engaging kind of like ethnic minorities in the UK doesn't really, I don't think it's like a good thing. Like, for example, I see Baroness Varsi. I think the fact that she was party chairman, I saw that as like a tokenist action in a way. Like, I don't see how she was actually any benefit to your party, or how,
Well, let me try the others here, because, Mo, I mean, actually, Boyardee was rather slightly optimistic by the end of his report. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, I think he was playing it down slightly. Can I first thank you for calling me young, because I'm one of the two bearded, portly, bald-headed old men sat round the table today.
Well, young in spirit, like me. Like me.
Young in spirit. I've got kids of voting age, but
you look cool, though.
Thank you very much. It's the hat. I think there is a more structural problem. I think we need to look at, which is that over the last 50 years, the core membership of the Conservative Party has fallen from somewhere in the region of 2.8 million. And there are some estimates that it may even be down to below 100,000 now. OK, we can say 100,000, 130,000. It's not good. And the Conservative Party have shrunk faster.
Yeah, but that's a generalisation. What about ethnic minorities?
The generalisation is because of the fact that the Conservative Party's average age of their members is 68. Now, there are 5 Asians and black and Asian voters vote for the Labour Party, and I'm non-partisan, 5 times more than they vote for the Tories,
and
give or take.
Why?
Well, I think that they see something that they recognise. I think, when we look at the current policies, for example, if you go to, in 2015, you're going to be campaigning, you're going to be knocking on doors, you're going to be speaking to ethnic minorities. 88% of Bangladeshi young men and women are suffering from the removal of EMA, Educational Maintenance Allowance. When we put university fees...
Well, that's not a bad thing to press on you. That's pretty true.
It's a very good thing to press on, but actually, if you go back and look at how EMA was working, it wasn't working properly. In fact, I spoke in the debate on EMA.
This was the money that was paid to 16 to 18-year-olds to stay at school, basically, fundamentally.
No, it was the additional allowance.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Yeah, well.
But when you look at what we're doing now, again, back to the Prime Minister's speech today, talking about people who are not in education or in employment, the million people who what we'd like to do is make sure that those people automatically, if they don't have employment, actually continue in an apprenticeship.
You're trying to get in
education.
I'm just thinking one of the main reasons that I think a lot of kind of like ethnic minorities in the UK wouldn't vote Conservative, like the immigration policy. I hate to stereotypically as a UKIPer go on about immigration, but genuinely, currently the policy, I think, is in fact racist. It gives priority to obviously EU citizens over people from the rest of the world, whereas UKIP, for example, who are increasingly losing the kind of image that it used to have and gaining like a better, more like multicultural image, like more ethnic people are voting for us. We have people like Amjad Bashir.
So they have an enlightened view of immigration. You really like their very tough immigration policy, which would...
I really don't think UKIP represent ethnic minorities in this country. This may be a shock to you, but UKIP are considered, you know, on the right of the political spectrum, right even of the Tories.
So,
no,
in terms of immigration, I think the Conservative policy right now is incredibly hostile and does appear hostile for a multitude of reasons. I come from a standpoint where I'm of Afro-Caribbean heritage, and I can speak for myself. The reasons I wouldn't vote for the Conservative Party currently is a mix of things, and I believe the two things that stand out to me is a stigma that's attached to the party. You know, I've grown up with parents who may have seen the Brixton riots, the failings of Margaret Thatcher to engage with Afro-Caribbean communities, and that continued on through John Major with the Stephen Lawrence failings. And then we have now the riots that occurred again. And so from that side of things, I think there needs to be a discovery of explorations into what we need as Afro-Caribbean communities, and why should we vote for you? I don't know why I should vote for you currently as it stands.
Why should you vote for you?
First of all, I think you're right. I think we need to listen and take seriously what you're saying, rather than just dismiss it and say, oh, well, you know, we did the right thing and here's why we did it, and sort of explain it in sort of really dry...
But I don't believe you are understanding it. A perfect example is, you know, I've just read the other day that a company like Kids Company, who helps people in, you know, areas like South London where there's large Afro-Caribbean communities struggling and dealing with violence and things like that, you're going to withdraw your contributions to that scheme. So everything signifies that you don't believe in us, and voting is a sign of trust.
I mean, I don't know about that particular scheme. All I can say is you know, we've got the Big Society Bank, where we've taken money that was dormant in banks and put it into a bank that actually can lend to social entrepreneurs, to charities. We're doing more, I think, on that front. One of my colleagues in Parliament, a Conservative, introduced a bill that makes local authorities, when they procure, look at the social enterprises.
But do you accept the welfare reforms are hurting disproportionately ethnic minorities more than any? You are setting them adrift on a life raft, whether it comes to... there's been a wholesale attack on human rights. Theresa May, just yesterday, I think, mentioned that in the 2015 manifesto, she'll be looking to remove and disconnect us from the Human Rights Act. As well as housing reform and housing benefit caps also hurt ethnic minorities.
Listen, you say she wants to disconnect us, but what you don't do is explain that we'll have a British Bill of Rights, right? We have a proud records on human rights in this country, and a British Bill of Rights is a good thing.
Who do you think it hurts when you undermine the Equality Act?
On welfare, just hear me out for a second. On welfare, right? It's only fair that people who are working hard, who are earning £26,000 a year, 35,000 gross, right, should not have to foot the bill for people who are on benefits.
You won't reach out to ethnic minorities.
We're going to have to leave it there. But what is really fascinating is you have raised a vast amount of issues, and you have said you're listening. So there's a lot of work to do. Thank you all four very, very much for coming in.